Major Jason Cole had never been a man to flinch. A 36-year-old Marine, decorated with combat honors and known for his razor-sharp instincts, he had walked through hell and lived to tell the story. Today, though, standing in the Pentagon's briefing wing, he felt the first flicker of unease. Not from the incoming mission alerts or the steel-strong security protocols. He'd handled far worse, but from the presence of a woman who radiated authority without announcing it. He leaned casually against the polished metal railing of the briefing room, scanning the group of assembled officers, analysts, and tech operatives. The fluorescent lights reflected off the shiny floor, making the room feel both sterile and tense. People murmured in hushed tones, typing rapidly on laptops, adjusting earpieces, and sipping lukewarm coffee from government tissue paper cups. Cole smirked at the controlled chaos, feeling comfortably in command of a room, but then he saw her. She was seated near the back, calm, composed, with an open folder in her hands. Her posture was unassuming yet precise, like a predator at rest. Her eyes, sharp, calculating, impossibly calm, scanned lines of intelligence, making notes with a mechanical grace. Nothing about her screamed battlefield experience, yet something in the way she carried herself made Cole pause. "Well," he said, striding forward with a confident grin, "and you are." His tone was teasing, almost mocking, as if he were about to witness a flustered junior officer stumble over their rank and credentials. She didn't look up immediately, letting the folder slide slightly to the side. When her gaze finally met his, it was steady, unwavering, and intelligent. "Special Ops Director," she said evenly. No hesitation, no emphasis, just those words delivered as matter-of-factly as if she had said, "I like coffee black." Cole's smirk froze, his mouth slightly open. For a heartbeat, the hum of computers, the soft clicks of keyboards, the low murmur of voices, all faded into silence in his perception. Special Ops Director. The words weren't just a rank, they were a title, one that carried weight, authority, and secrets most people didn't even know existed. It was rare enough for anyone outside a handful of classified circles to know the position existed. Rarer still for them to be standing in the same room with you. His mind raced, trying to reconcile the calm, composed woman before him with the title she had just declared. She was not just in charge, she was in charge of the invisible war, the operations nobody outside a need-to-know list ever saw. Before he could say anything, the door at the far end of the briefing room slammed open, and a uniformed officer hurried in, urgency written on every line of his face. The intercom buzzed, cutting through the tension. "Alert, unauthorized drone strike. Zone Delta 7. Civilian casualties imminent. All relevant parties respond immediately." Cole's adrenaline kicked in. His training took over, instantaneously calculating risk, response, extraction points. But the calm, poised figure of the Special Ops Director caught his attention again. She was already standing, hands moving over the folder and a secure tablet, coordinating, calculating, directing. Every move she made seemed both deliberate and effortless, commanding the attention of everyone in the room without raising her voice. Cole swallowed. He wasn't used to feeling outmatched in a room full of people who were supposed to be on his level. But right now, she owned the chaos, and he had no idea how she did it. Her eyes flicked toward him briefly, as if acknowledging the silent shock he was trying and failing to hide. Then came the orders. They weren't shouted or forceful, they were precise, surgical. Analysts pivoted their monitors, satellite feeds switched focus, and secure lines opened to teams already in the field. She was orchestrating a response that involved dozens of moving pieces: military assets, civilian safety protocols, drone intercepts, and intelligence verification, all while remaining calm, unflustered, and impossibly collected. Cole could feel a strange mix of admiration and disbelief rising in his chest. Every special ops team he had ever led, every mission he had commanded, had always required hours of planning and endless briefings. This woman was doing in minutes what usually took weeks, and she was doing it flawlessly. "Major Cole," she said, her voice cutting clearly through the din, "you're being deployed to Zone Delta 7. Coordinates are secure. Extraction points are pre-mapped. Maintain comms. I will guide you." He blinked. Her calm authority left him momentarily speechless. His usual banter, the swagger and cocky humor that masked his instincts for danger, had deserted him. She didn't give orders. She gave instructions that had to be obeyed, not because of fear, but because you knew instantly they were correct. Cole tried to respond with the casual humor he usually wielded as armor. "Right. So, a special ops director, huh? That's a joke rank, right?" Her lips twitched, not quite a smile, but her eyes never wavered. "Not a joke," she said simply, folding the folder. Her gaze was steady, piercing, and Cole felt, inexplicably, a chill run down his spine. It was the kind of authority that didn't ask for respect. It demanded it, silently and absolutely. Before he could recover, the room's security officer announced, "All personnel assigned to Delta 7, prepare for immediate deployment. Transport leaves in 5 minutes." Cole's pulse quickened. He glanced around the room, noting the flurry of activity, the tension, the adrenaline, the silent focus. And then he looked back at her. She had already moved to another console, tapping into secure feeds, her every motion precise. He realized with a sinking sense of awe that this wasn't just a mission she was overseeing, this was her war. The helicopter that would take them into Zone Delta 7 roared outside, its blades thrumming against the pavement like a heartbeat of the impending chaos. Cole adjusted his jacket, trying to mask the nervous energy that had nothing to do with the upcoming operation. His instincts screamed at him to be wary. He'd faced countless dangers in combat, but nothing had ever prepared him for the intensity emanating from this woman, the Special Ops Director. As the team moved toward the transport, she finally looked at him again. This time, the look held something more than authority. It carried expectation, calculation, and the faintest hint of challenge. "Major," she said quietly, "you're about to see why Delta 7 is no ordinary mission. Trust my guidance. Every second counts." Cole nodded, feeling a knot tighten in his stomach. He had seen war up close, but this was different. Something about the way she commanded the room, controlled the information, and anticipated every potential hazard made his instincts scream both warning and fascination. Who was she? How could someone so unassuming hold so much power? And most importantly, how would he survive the storm she was about to lead him through? The helicopter doors slammed open behind him, a gust of wind carrying the scent of fuel and anticipation. Cole took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was coming, yet unable to shake the feeling that the Special Ops Director's presence alone had already changed the rules of engagement. And then, as he stepped into the whirling chaos of the rotors, the comm line buzzed, her voice cutting through clearly. "Cole, eyes on the ground. This mission will test everything you think you know, trust nothing, expect everything." Cole swallowed hard. He had no idea what he was walking into, but he knew with an uneasy certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. The rotors of the helicopter sliced through the early morning sky, whipping wind and dust into a frenzy around Major Cole and his team. Cole gripped the railing, muscles tense, eyes scanning the ground below. Zone Delta 7 stretched out like a powder keg, barren hills punctuated by sporadic clusters of buildings, smoke curling from a recently struck area, and civilians darting across open streets in panic. His pulse raced, the adrenaline kicking in, a familiar, almost comforting sensation. And yet, a thread of unease ran deeper than any battlefield he'd ever faced. He stole a glance at the woman, the Special Ops Director, her presence virtually omnipresent even though she remained back at headquarters, overseeing the operation through live feeds and secure communications. Cole had expected tactical direction, perhaps some coordinated satellite intel. What he didn't expect was the almost surgical precision of her command. Every update, every instruction she issued seemed to anticipate the chaos before it even happened. "Cole," her voice crackled over the secure comm line, calm but commanding. "I've deployed assets to your 6 and 8 o'clock. Expect contact within 90 seconds. Civilian extraction points are compromised. Prioritize human life over objectives. Move smart. Cole's eyes widened slightly. She didn't just command, she orchestrated. She was like a conductor controlling an orchestra of lives, weapons, and information, yet her calm tone suggested this was routine for her. He glanced at his team, noticing the same flicker of disbelief in their eyes. Normally, Major Cole led these rapid deployment missions. Normally, he was the authority everyone deferred to. Today, he followed, and it felt strangely right. The comm line crackled again. Cole, you've got eyes on the northeast alleyway. Civilian group trapped. Move fast. Enemy presence confirmed. I'll cover drone deployment. Trust your team. They're positioned for immediate extraction. Copy that, Cole muttered, swallowing hard. He gripped the side of the helicopter as the pilot began the final descent, bringing them closer to the chaos below. His stomach twisted as he saw the first signs of the disaster. Smoke rising from collapsed buildings, screams faint but unmistakable, and shadows moving with menacing intent. This was no simulation. This was real, and people's lives hung in the balance. The helicopter landed with a jolt, sending dust into the air like a smokescreen. Cole jumped down, his boots hitting the dirt as he motioned to his team. They fanned out, weapons raised, scanning the area with practiced precision. But the tension was palpable. Every soldier in his unit could feel it, the invisible hand guiding them, pulling the threads of danger into patterns only she could see. Delta 7 is unstable, she said over the comm. Sniper nest on the ridge, enemy advancing from Sector 4. You have 30 seconds to reach the civilians. Use alleyways, avoid open streets. I'll clear a path with drone support. Stay focused, Cole. He cursed under his breath. 30 seconds. 30 seconds to navigate a maze of danger with civilians caught in the middle and hostile forces poised to strike. He darted toward the northeast alleyway, signaling his team to follow. The air smelled of smoke and gunpowder, carrying the tension like a tangible weight. He could hear the faint pop of distant gunfire, the drone's quiet hum above, and the terrified screams of people who had nowhere to run. Cole's team moved with silent precision, covering each other, watching corners, clearing intersections. And yet, despite their expertise, he couldn't shake the eerie feeling that every move they made had already been anticipated. Every alley, every building, every potential threat seemed to have been predicted in advance. He glanced at the GPS overlay on his wrist console, sent through her encrypted feed. It highlighted safe routes, enemy positions, and civilian locations with uncanny accuracy. Cole, her voice cut through again, sharp and unflinching. Move left. Sniper will take the high wall in 3, 2, 1 now. Cover fire deployed. Civilians moving. Keep them safe. Cole's heart lurched. The sniper shot rang out, the bullet ricocheting off the far wall just as she said it would. It was like watching a scene choreographed in slow motion. The civilians hurried down the alleyway, a team member firing a suppressing shot to keep the enemy pinned. The synchronization was breathtaking, terrifying, and almost unbelievable. As they moved the trapped civilians toward safety, a sudden explosion rocked the nearby street. Dust and debris shot into the air, blinding them momentarily. Cole instinctively shielded the nearest child, feeling the heat of the blast on his arms. When the smoke cleared, he scanned the area and froze. One of his own team had been pinned down by advancing enemy forces. He cursed, gripping his rifle tighter, adrenaline surging. Cole, flank left. I've covered your 6. Smoke deploy in 3, 2, 1, go. Her voice was calm, precise, almost detached, but it carried a weight that left no room for hesitation. Following her instructions, Cole moved with his team, dodging debris, navigating treacherous terrain, and keeping civilians safe. Every step felt like a gamble, yet her guidance was flawless. Minutes stretched like hours. Every street corner, every alleyway, every shadow held potential death. And yet, through the chaos, the Special Ops Director's voice remained a lifeline, cutting through the panic with absolute clarity. Cole realized he hadn't experienced this kind of guidance since his earliest combat days, and even then, nothing compared to her almost preternatural control over the battlefield. Then came the impossible moment. From the roof of a crumbling building, a hostile operative opened fire, aiming directly at the civilians Cole was protecting. Cole dove forward, pulling a young woman to cover. The bullet tore a hole in the wall inches from his head. He glanced at the drone feed, sent from her command center, and saw the precise moment she activated the drone's countermeasure. A sudden flash and a loud pop, incapacitating the shooter without harming the civilians. Cole's mouth went dry. She wasn't just directing the mission, she was intervening in real time, shaping outcomes with the precision of a chess master. And all the while, her calm voice never wavered, never faltered. "Civilians clear," she said. "Move to extraction point Bravo. I'll cover the rear. Cole, watch your six." Cole glanced over his shoulder, half expecting to see another ambush. His chest pounded. His hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from the overwhelming realization of what he was witnessing. Every move, every calculation, every contingency had been anticipated. He had been in life-or-death situations before, but never under the invisible guidance of someone who seemed to know the battlefield better than he did, even from hundreds of miles away. The team reached the extraction point, the civilians safe for now. Cole lowered his weapon briefly, catching his breath, but the tension never left his body. He looked skyward, toward the location of the helicopter that would take them, and toward the unseen presence controlling the entire operation from headquarters. "Cole," her voice cut through one last time before they lifted off, "this is just the beginning. Delta 7 is unstable. Enemy movements are unpredictable. Keep your focus. I'll guide you, but you must trust your instincts. And your team." Cole nodded, swallowing hard. He had no choice but to obey. But as the helicopter rose, carrying them away from immediate danger, a question burned hotter than the engine exhaust in his mind. Who was this woman, this special ops director, whose presence could change the outcome of life-or-death missions without ever setting foot on the battlefield? And more importantly, what would happen when she finally stepped into the storm herself? The helicopter blades chopped through the smoke-laden air as Major Cole's boots hit the cracked tarmac of Zone Delta 7. Dust stung his eyes, and the acrid smell of burned buildings filled his lungs. Smoke swirled around the skeletal remains of structures that had once housed families, shops, and schools. The screams of civilians echoed faintly, carried on the wind, blending with the distant pops of gunfire. Every instinct Cole had honed over 15 years of combat screamed at him. Stay sharp, move fast, and don't hesitate. Cole glanced at his team. Each soldier mirrored his tension, alert, professional, and disciplined, but the fear in their eyes was real. They had trained for scenarios like this, yet nothing prepared anyone for the chaos Delta 7 had become. The streets were a patchwork of debris, overturned vehicles, and fragments of what once was. Shadows danced along crumbling walls, hinting at hidden threats. He checked his wrist console. The Special Ops Director's live feed overlays glowed softly, illuminating paths through the maze of destruction. Safe routes were highlighted in green, high-risk zones in red. Every movement, every alleyway, every building appeared as if she had mapped it with omniscient foresight. Cole shook his head. He had followed her guidance into this storm, but now he had to move into the unknown, relying solely on her instructions. "Cole, northeast alleyway now," her voice crackled through the calm, commanding, precise. He motioned his team into position, their boots crunching against shattered glass and gravel. Civilians were scattered in the distance, huddled and terrified, as Cole's eyes swept for threats. Then he saw it. A group of children pinned behind a collapsed wall, gunfire slicing through the air dangerously close. "Cover fire," he muttered, lifting his rifle. His team responded instantly, synchronized, moving like extensions of each other. Bullets ricocheted off walls, dust clouds enveloping the scene. Cole's heart pounded. Every step toward the trapped civilians felt like wading through chaos, every movement a gamble with life and death. "Cole," her voice came again, almost surgical in its timing, "left flank. Rooftop sniper, civilian group in danger, suppressing fire deployed. Go." The bullet from the sniper ricocheted near Cole's ear, and instinctively he dove forward, pulling a young boy to safety. The world became a blur, dust, smoke, screams. But the Special Ops Director's guidance was a tether pulling him through. He didn't question her decisions. He trusted them. Every move was calibrated, precise, almost impossible, but it worked. Suddenly, a building to their right erupted in flames. Shards of glass and wood splintered outward as a secondary explosion threw Cole and two team members to the ground. He tasted dust, blood, and adrenaline, heart hammering in his chest. He rolled to cover, shaking off the impact, eyes scanning for threats. Through the haze, he glimpsed a figure advancing, enemy forces converging, aiming to trap them between collapsed structures and sniper fire. "Cole, I've deployed a diversion drone," her voice cut through. "Smoke screen in 3, 2, 1, move." A thick, choking fog enveloped the alley, obscuring vision and confusing the enemy. Cole's team surged forward, leading the civilians along the path she had designated. Each step was a calculated risk, yet every calculation had been preempted by her guidance. They moved like shadows through the chaos, an almost unnatural precision guiding them. Then the worst happened. One of Cole's team members, Corporal Ramirez, tripped over debris and fell. Enemy fire zeroed in immediately. Cole lunged, dragging Ramirez into cover. The Special Ops Director's voice remained steady, calm, almost eerie in its detachment. Covering fire engaged. Ramirez move. Cole left flank immediate extraction. Civilian group in sight. Cole's muscles burned, adrenaline spiking as he dragged his comrade to the designated path. Bullets kicked up dust around them. A fragment of roof crashed nearby. He glanced at the civilians, frozen with fear. Every second was life or death, yet her instructions, her calm, unwavering voice, kept them alive. Minutes passed like hours. Each movement, each breath, each heartbeat was a gamble. And through it all, Cole began to realize something unnerving. The Special Ops Director wasn't just guiding the mission. She was predicting it. Every enemy advance, every obstacle, every sudden crisis seemed anticipated before it happened. How could she see all this from hundreds of miles away? How could she predict every move on the ground with such accuracy? Cole's mind raced, even as he followed her orders to the letter. He had faced ambushes, coordinated attacks, and insurgents on foreign soil, but nothing compared to this. This was an entirely new level of strategic command. He swallowed, tightening his grip on his rifle, heart thundering. They approached a narrow alleyway that opened into a courtyard. The civilians were ahead, but the path was blocked by two armed operatives. Cole froze momentarily, calculating options, and then her voice came over the comm. "Cole, left wall, take cover behind debris, enemy unaware. Move in sync with suppressing fire, civilians will follow, go." He obeyed instinctively, sliding behind the jagged remains of a building wall. His team followed, weapons ready. Bullets pinged off metal and stone as they suppressed the enemy. The civilians, guided by Cole's firm commands, moved cautiously, trusting this stranger they had never met. The firefight escalated, but Cole felt a strange calm and almost impossible clarity. She wasn't just giving orders. She was controlling the battlefield like a chess master, every piece accounted for. Every potential outcome had been considered. Then came the explosion that nearly tipped him over the edge. From above, a drone strike intended to neutralize a hostile position detonated. Debris and flames erupted, catching him and Ramirez in its blast radius. Cole shielded the civilians instinctively, hearing a child cry out in terror. And yet, despite the chaos, her voice remained a lifeline. "Cole, extraction point ahead. Move now. Drone cover active. Trust your team." Cole's pulse raced as he guided the civilians through the burning alleyway, dodging debris and stray gunfire. The last child was in safety before he allowed himself a brief glance at the destruction surrounding them. Buildings crumbled, smoke twisted into the sky, and the cries of the wounded echoed. But they had survived this segment of the mission, and he knew that, without her guidance, they wouldn't have. As the team moved toward the extraction point, Cole's breath came in ragged gasps. He glanced at the GPS overlay, noting the distance. They were far from safe. The enemy had adapted, civilian casualties remained a threat, and every second now counted more than ever. Yet her instructions never faltered. Every command was precise, calm, and impeccably timed. He swallowed hard, realizing a truth that made his chest tighten. She wasn't just any special ops leader. She was something else entirely, a strategist, a tactician, and a force of control that transcended conventional warfare. And now, as the smoke cleared and the extraction point drew near, he knew that whatever lay ahead, he would have to follow her commands blindly or risk losing everything. The comm line buzzed again, her voice crisp and authoritative. Cole, Delta 7 is far from secure. Enemy reinforcements inbound. Stay alert. Keep civilians safe. Trust your instincts but follow my lead. We're just getting started. Cole's stomach twisted with both dread and awe. He had entered the fire, guided by a woman who commanded the battlefield from afar. And as they approached the extraction point, he realized that the storm they were in was only growing, and the true test of trust, skill, and survival had yet to come. The extraction point loomed ahead, a narrow concrete courtyard surrounded by partially collapsed buildings. Major Cole's boots crunched over broken asphalt as he guided the last of the civilians forward. The air was thick with smoke, dust, and the faint acrid smell of burning rubber. Every sense screamed danger. Every shadow could conceal an enemy combatant ready to end their lives. Yet through the chaos, one constant remained, her voice, crisp and unwavering, crackling through the calm. Cole, northeast approach compromised. Enemy advancing from the east. Suppressing fire deployed. Move civilians to southwest corridor. I'm covering your rear, she instructed, calm as if reading from a routine checklist rather than a battlefield brimming with imminent death. Cole's pulse hammered in his chest. The southwest corridor was narrow, littered with rubble and jagged metal. Any misstep could trap them, leaving them exposed to sniper fire and advancing forces. He glanced at his team. Each soldier mirrored his tension, muscles coiled, eyes scanning for threats. They had trained for this, yes, but Delta 7 was a living, breathing nightmare. Nothing they had rehearsed in simulations could prepare them for the chaos that surrounded them. Cole, her voice came again, move. I've deployed drone suppression. 30 seconds to safe zone. Civilians must stay low, trust your team. Cole nodded, signaling the civilians forward. They crouched instinctively, wide-eyed and terrified. He led the way, his rifle sweeping corners, movements precise yet deliberate. Every step was a gamble, every turn a calculated risk. And yet through it all, her guidance acted like an invisible shield. She wasn't just directing, she was predicting, shaping the battlefield in real time. A sudden explosion ripped through a nearby alley, sending shards of brick and concrete flying. Cole ducked, pulling a teenager to cover. Dust filled his lungs, making each breath a struggle. He glanced at Ramirez, who had almost been crushed by falling debris, and barked, "Move, now." The Special Ops Director's calm voice cut through the chaos. Cole, left flank, sniper neutralized. Enemy reinforcements moving to east perimeter. Civilians clear that section. I've marked alternate route on your HUD. Move fast. Cole's stomach twisted as he scanned the display. The new route was even tighter, a narrow path flanked by partially collapsed walls and precarious debris. Any misstep could be fatal. He motioned for his team to follow, taking the lead with measured steps, heart pounding. The civilians shuffled behind, trusting him implicitly, though they had no idea who was guiding them from afar. Suddenly, gunfire erupted from above. A rooftop sniper, previously hidden, opened fire, sending bullets pinging against the rubble around them. Cole dove behind a crumbling wall, pulling Ramirez and 2 civilians down with him. The comm crackled. Cole, suppressing fire deployed. Move now, I've covered your 6. Cole obeyed without hesitation. His team surged forward, firing back with pinpoint accuracy. The civilians moved in tight formation, their fear palpable. The rooftop sniper fired again, but a flash of light and a sharp pop signaled the drone's countermeasure. She had neutralized the threat without harming a single civilian. Cole's chest tightened at the sight. She wasn't just guiding, she was protecting them in ways that defied belief. As they approached the southwest corridor, a sudden realization hit him. One of the enemy units had split off, attempting to flank them from the rear. Cole's heart leapt. The corridor was narrow. There was no cover for the civilians. His instincts screamed for immediate action, but before he could make a decision, her voice rang out again, unshakable. Cole, flank left. Smoke deployed in 3, 2, 1, go. A thick fog rolled through the corridor, obscuring vision and disorienting the enemy. Cole led the civilians forward, guided by the faint green indicators on his HUD. Bullets ricocheted around them, sparks flying as debris splintered under the fire. Yet the civilians moved with him, guided by his calm reassurance and the invisible presence of her command. Then came the worst moment yet. Ramirez cried out, a hand clasped to his leg. He had been hit. Cole's heart leapt into his throat. He dropped to one knee, assessing the wound. It wasn't fatal, but they couldn't stop. The enemy was closing in. Cole, she said, calm and precise. Ramirez, stabilize. Cole, left flank, suppressing fire. Extraction point within 60 meters. Move now. Cole grabbed his comrade, dragging him toward the extraction zone, shielding him with his own body. His boots slipped on loose gravel, heart hammering, every nerve on edge. The civilians followed in a tight line, eyes wide with terror, clinging to the promise that they would survive this chaos. Bullets tore through the air around them, ricocheting off metal, shattering debris. Cole's team provided suppressing fire, but the enemy had adapted, moving with lethal coordination. And yet somehow she anticipated their moves. Every ambush, every attack, every attempt to trap them had been accounted for. It was almost impossible, and yet it was happening before his eyes. A sudden explosion sent a shockwave through the corridor, throwing Cole to the ground. Dust choked his lungs, debris cutting his arms. He looked up to see civilians frozen in fear. Adrenaline surged. He crawled forward, pulling the nearest child along, ignoring the pain in his ribs and arms. Cole, final stretch, her voice crackled over the comm. Extraction point clear. Drones will cover perimeter, move fast, civilians first. You're almost out. Cole's jaw tightened. He signaled the team to form a protective perimeter around the civilians. Each movement was deliberate, each step synchronized with her instructions. The enemy continued to advance, but the drone support created enough suppression to give them a narrow window. Seconds stretched. Every heartbeat echoed in Cole's ears. Dust, smoke, and the screams of the wounded filled the air. And then, finally, the extraction point came into view. A waiting helicopter, rotors spinning, ready to whisk them out of the nightmare. Cole's pulse surged with relief, but the danger wasn't over yet. One last threat emerged from the shadows, a heavily armed operative attempting to intercept the civilians. Cole raised his rifle, aiming for a clean, precise shot, but before he could fire, a bright flash and sharp pop signaled her intervention. The enemy collapsed, incapacitated without harming anyone else. Cole's chest tightened. He had never seen anything like this. As the civilians boarded the helicopter, Cole glanced at his team. They were exhausted, bloodied, and shaken, but alive. He allowed himself a brief moment to breathe, to process the chaos they had just survived. And yet, even as the helicopter lifted off, his mind raced. Delta 7 was far from secure. Enemy reinforcements could strike at any moment, and the civilians were only temporarily safe. Her voice came one final time over the comm as they rose into the sky, calm, authoritative, and eerily composed. Cole, Delta 7 is unstable. Enemy positions shifting. Mission isn't over. Stay vigilant. Trust your instincts, but follow my lead. We've survived the first wave, but the real test is just beginning. Cole's jaw tightened, heart hammering. He had survived the initial chaos, guided by a woman whose presence was felt rather than seen, whose authority was absolute without being ostentatious. He had no idea who she truly was, or how she had predicted every danger they faced, but one thing was certain. She had saved lives today, and the battlefield had just revealed that the storm was far from over. As the helicopter soared over Delta 7, Cole stared down at the ravaged streets, civilians scattering below, and felt a shiver of both awe and fear. The Special Ops Director's calm, calculated guidance had turned near-impossible odds into survival, but for how long? And when the next wave hit, would even her genius be enough to save them? The comm went silent, leaving only the roar of the helicopter and the echoes of destruction below. Cole's hands trembled slightly on his rifle, and he realized that this mission, and this woman, had already changed everything he thought he knew about war, strategy, and trust. The helicopter roared over the ravaged streets of Delta 7, carrying Major Cole, his team, and the civilians to temporary safety. The wind whipped against the fuselage, mingling with the scent of smoke, dust, and burned rubble that clung stubbornly to Cole's uniform. He lowered his rifle for the first time in what felt like hours, though his chest still burned with adrenaline. His mind raced, replaying the chaos they had just escaped, and the woman whose unseen hand had guided them through it. She hadn't just given orders, she had orchestrated survival. Every sniper neutralized, every ambush predicted, every civilian led to safety. It had all flowed through her like a carefully tuned instrument. Cole had followed her commands without hesitation, but now, in the relative calm of the helicopter's interior, a single question consumed him. Who was she? The Special Ops Director remained back at headquarters, her voice crackling intermittently over the secure comm line. She gave updates on enemy movements, tactical recommendations, and civilian status, all delivered with a calm precision that made even the most seasoned soldiers feel small. Cole had seen battlefield commanders before, but never anyone who seemed to anticipate chaos before it existed. Cole pulled out a secure tablet, scanning the live feed intel she had pushed moments ago. Every movement on the battlefield, every enemy formation, every potential civilian hazard had been calculated. Her analysis wasn't just strategic, it was predictive, almost impossible in scope. He scrolled through the satellite overlays, the drone coordinates, and the tactical annotations, and the realization hit him like a blow. She wasn't just a leader, she was a force of nature. Major, her voice cut through the hum of the helicopter's engines. Calm, authoritative, unwavering. Delta 7 remains unstable. Enemy units regrouping. Reinforcements inbound. I'm initiating secondary measures. Trust the plan. Execute as instructed. Cole's hands tightened on his tablet. Secondary measures. She wasn't merely guiding. She was controlling outcomes he couldn't even begin to predict. Every instinct screamed caution, every survival-trained nerve was on edge, but there was a strange reassurance in her confidence. He had learned to trust his gut in combat, but now he realized he was learning to trust her entirely. The helicopter banked sharply, carrying them toward a secondary staging area. Cole's team moved quickly to secure the civilians, distributing water and first aid supplies as the temporary relief of altitude gave them breathing room. Ramirez, still shaken from the earlier injury, cast a glance at Cole, his expression unreadable. Everyone knew the battle wasn't over. They had survived a deadly first wave, but the Special Ops Director's calm insistence on forward planning hinted at dangers far worse to come. Cole finally allowed himself a moment to look at her official identification on the secure feed. She was composed, professional, almost unremarkable in appearance, yet the title she carried seemed almost mythic, Special Ops Director. He had seen countless commanders, some feared, some revered, but none who wielded invisible authority with this level of mastery. She was a legend in plain sight, guiding every movement, shaping the battlefield, and remaining untouchable in both presence and influence. His mind raced. How many missions had she orchestrated like this? How many lives had she quietly saved? The thought was overwhelming. Every civilian they had rescued, every team member kept alive, every threat neutralized, it had all flowed through her hands. She was not just commanding, She was predicting outcomes, almost as if the battlefield existed entirely within her mind. The helicopter touched down at the secondary staging area, a small clearing barely large enough for the aircraft. Cole's boots hit the ground, gravel crunching beneath him. The civilians moved under his guidance, still wide-eyed, still shaken. The sun was beginning to rise over the jagged horizon, casting long shadows over buildings reduced to skeletal remains. Cole's team secured the perimeter, weapons raised, scanning for threats. "Cole," her voice came again through the comm, soft but commanding. "Delta 7 intel suggests a high-priority enemy operative is coordinating a counterattack. You will need to move fast, secure civilians, and prevent regrouping. I will provide overwatch. Trust the plan." Cole's jaw tightened. High-priority enemy operative. That could mean ambushes, traps, and far more lethal threats than they had faced so far. His pulse surged. He had trained for every possible scenario, but even his extensive experience didn't prepare him for the combination of her predictive oversight and the unpredictable brutality of this mission. He motioned his team forward. Each soldier moved with silent precision, muscles coiled like springs. Cole led them down a narrow path through the ruins, civilians following closely. Dust and debris rose with every step, the air heavy with tension. And through it all, her instructions continued, precise, unflinching, and seemingly omniscient. Every turn, every move, every potential hazard had already been considered. They reached a collapsed bridge, the only route to the next extraction point. Cole paused, assessing the situation. Enemy forces had regrouped on the far side, a tight cluster of heavily armed operatives preparing to ambush them. His instincts screamed danger, but before he could formulate a plan, her voice came over the comm. "Cole, left flank. Use debris for cover. Drone suppression in 3, 2, 1, go." The drone's countermeasure detonated above the enemy, blinding them temporarily. Cole's team surged forward, guiding the civilians, suppressing enemy fire, and navigating the treacherous terrain. Every second was a gamble, but her foresight and calculations turned near-impossible odds into survival. Cole finally allowed himself a fleeting glance at the civilians. Children clutched parents' hands. Terrified adults followed, trusting him to lead them through chaos. He realized something profound. The Special Ops Director wasn't just controlling the battlefield, she was controlling lives, shaping outcomes in ways few could comprehend. She was the hidden architect of survival. As they reached the far side of the bridge, Cole's mind finally caught up with the reality of what he had witnessed. She wasn't just another commander. She was something entirely different: strategic genius, orchestrator of survival, and master of outcomes. Every decision, every instruction, every predictive measure had kept them alive. Without her, Delta 7 would have been a massacre. His pulse surged again as he realized the next wave of danger loomed closer. Enemy reinforcements, high-value targets, and civilians still at risk, all required immediate action. And yet, even as he prepared, a new, chilling thought struck him. If she could see this far ahead, what else had she orchestrated in his life and career that he didn't even realize? "Cole," her voice finally came, soft but unyielding, "you've proven capable under pressure. Keep civilians safe. Execute the next phase exactly as planned. Delta 7 is unstable. Every second counts." Cole's jaw tightened. He had survived the chaos, but the battlefield's true test lay ahead. And as he scanned the ruined streets, he realized the truth. The Special Ops Director wasn't just guiding them through war, she was rewriting the rules of it entirely. For the first time, Cole truly understood her power, and it terrified him. The helicopter lifted away from the secondary staging area, carrying Cole, his team, and the civilians to a precarious reprieve. But the sense of safety was fleeting like a mirage in the chaos of Delta 7. Every instinct Cole possessed screamed that the enemy wasn't finished. He had survived ambushes, coordinated attacks, and urban combat before, but this mission felt different. The battlefield wasn't just unpredictable, it was alive, shifting in ways that defied standard tactics. Cole, the special ops director's voice came through the calm and precise, slicing through the roar of the helicopter's engines. Delta 7 intel indicates enemy reinforcements advancing from the south corridor. You have approximately 90 seconds to reach secure extraction. Civilians must remain low and stay in formation. I will provide overwatch. Move fast. Cole tightened his grip on his rifle. 90 seconds. His team readied themselves, adrenaline surging as they prepared to descend into an inferno once more. The civilians, exhausted and terrified, clung to each other, trusting the man they barely knew and the unseen commander guiding them from afar. Every heartbeat was measured, calculated. Survival demanded focus, and the margin for error was microscopic. The helicopter touched down in a rubble-strewn courtyard. Cole led the civilians toward a narrow alleyway, glancing at the GPS overlay fed by her live intelligence. The path was perilous. Half-collapsed walls, scattered debris, and enemy units flanking from both ends. He motioned his team forward, signaling silent instructions to maintain tight formations around the civilians. Cole left flank, her voice crackled through, crisp and unwavering, sniper positioned on the eastern ridge. Suppressing fire deployed. Civilians must stay low. Move now. Bullets ricocheted from the alley walls. Sparks flew. Debris exploded from near misses. Cole dropped to one knee, shielding the nearest child while directing his team to neutralize threats. Each step forward was a calculated risk, each movement choreographed by her predictive commands. Then it happened. A sudden explosion erupted behind them, sending a cloud of dust and fragments into the air. Cole slammed to the ground, pulling a civilian under cover. His ears rang from the blast and his chest heaved. He glanced back, heart racing. Enemy operatives had infiltrated the extraction path. Cole remained calm, she said, her voice almost unnervingly serene. Smoke deployed. Alternate route highlighted. Trust the plan. Move now. Cole gritted his teeth, signaling his team to adjust formation. The smoke enveloped the alley like a living barrier, obscuring vision and disorienting enemy forces. Cole guided the civilians through the choking haze, feeling each second stretch like hours. Bullets cracked dangerously close, ricocheting off walls and metal fragments. Yet through it all, her instructions acted like an invisible shield, guiding them through near-impossible chaos. A child stumbled over debris. Cole dove forward, dragging her back to safety. Ramirez flanked him, providing covering fire, but the enemy's persistence was relentless. Every instinct screamed retreat, but her voice cut through, steady and unyielding. Cole's southwest corner, extraction point in sight, suppressing fire maintained. Civilians must stay low. Move. The corridor was narrow, littered with shattered concrete and twisted metal. Enemy operatives converged from multiple angles, and Cole's team fought to hold the line. Bullets tore through walls, sparks flew, and debris fell around them. Cole's pulse surged, adrenaline a wildfire through his veins. Every movement had to be perfect. One misstep, one hesitation, and the civilians wouldn't survive. Then the impossible occurred. One of the enemy operatives managed to position himself atop a partially collapsed building, ready to fire on the civilians. Cole froze momentarily, calculating the angle, the risk, the consequences. But before he could react, a sudden flash and deafening pop from a drone deployed by the Special Ops Director incapacitated the enemy, neutralizing the threat without harming anyone. Cole's chest tightened. She wasn't just coordinating, they were surviving because of her foresight. Minutes blurred. Cole guided the civilians through the final stretch, following her directions to the letter. The path was treacherous, every turn a potential death trap, but the unseen hand guiding them had anticipated every move. He glanced at his team, exhausted but alive, and realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. The Special Ops Director didn't just command, they predicted. As they approached the extraction zone, a new, chilling realization struck him. The enemy wasn't retreating, they were adapting. Reinforcements had split off, attempting to flank the corridor, cutting off any chance of escape. Cole's stomach tightened. They were trapped. Cole, her voice came again, steady and commanding. Enemy split units detected. I've deployed countermeasures. Civilians first. Maintain formation. Trust the plan. Execute now. Cole motioned his team into a defensive perimeter around the civilians. Every soldier was on edge, muscles taut, eyes scanning for threats. Bullets pinged off walls, sparks flying as enemy operatives closed in. The drone deployed above suppressed enemy fire, creating a narrow but vital window for movement. Cole's mind raced. Every instinct screamed danger, every second stretched thin. The civilians were terrified, clinging to him for protection. His pulse thundered as he realized the full weight of responsibility. One mistake could cost lives. And then he understood something far more profound. The Special Ops Director wasn't simply directing the battlefield. She was controlling outcomes, shaping every move, predicting every threat, and orchestrating survival with a precision that defied reality. Every ambush, every enemy advance, every potential disaster had already been anticipated and neutralized. Cole's jaw tightened. He had always relied on his instincts, his training, and his team's skill. But now he saw the impossible. Even with all that experience, survival depended entirely on following her guidance. She was the unseen hand of fate in a war zone that defied logic. The extraction point finally came into view. The helicopter waited, rotors spinning, ready to lift them out of the inferno. Cole's team surged forward, forming a protective wall around the civilians. Bullets tore through the alley behind them, ricocheting off debris. Sparks flew. Dust and smoke filled the air. Every second was a gamble, but they were almost out. Cole, final stretch, her voice instructed. Civilians first, team cover. Extraction point secure, move fast. Cole's breath came in ragged gasps. He guided the last civilians to the helicopter, his hands shaking slightly from adrenaline and fear. Ramirez followed, wounded but alive. Cole climbed aboard last, casting a final glance at the devastated streets below. The helicopter lifted off, carrying them away from the inferno, but Cole's mind was far from calm. The Special Ops Director's power, her precision, her control over life and death, left him both awed and unsettled. He had survived Delta 7's first wave, guided by a woman whose presence was felt but unseen. And yet, he realized with a chill that the real test was only beginning. Her voice crackled one last time over the comm. Cole, Delta 7 is far from secure. Enemy regrouping, countermeasures deployed. Mission isn't over. Stay vigilant. Follow the plan, trust me. Cole's jaw tightened. He had witnessed her genius firsthand, but the battlefield had revealed a terrifying truth. Her influence extended far beyond what he had imagined, and even the deadliest scenarios were not immune to her command. As the helicopter soared into the rising sun, Cole understood something undeniable. The Special Ops Director wasn't just orchestrating survival, she was redefining the rules of war itself. And when the next wave hit, he knew instinctively that it would push him, and everyone he protected, beyond anything they had endured so far. The helicopter banked sharply over Delta 7, kicking up a storm of dust, ash, and debris from the ruined city below. Major Cole grips the edge of the seat, eyes scanning the shattered streets beneath them. The civilians huddle in the center, fear etched into every expression, while his team moves silently, weapons at the ready. Even with the relative safety of altitude, Cole can feel the pulse of danger emanating from below. Delta 7 isn't done with them. Not yet. Cole, the Special Ops Director's voice cut through the comm, sharp and calm. Enemy reinforcements are consolidating at Sector 9. Intel indicates a high-priority operative coordinating the assault. Civilian safety is paramount. You will execute a rapid descent, secure the corridor, and neutralize threats along the Southwest Passage. Drones are active. Trust your team. Trust my guidance. Cole's jaw tightened. High-priority operative. That phrase alone could mean traps, ambushes, or worse. His pulse surged. They had survived ambushes, sniper attacks, and near-fatal explosions, But this new wave threatened to overwhelm them. Every step, every decision, every second would matter. The helicopter touches down in a narrow, debris-laden alleyway, the rotors whipping dust into the air. Cole signals his team to form a protective perimeter around the civilians. His boots crunch over shattered asphalt and twisted metal as he leads them forward. Every sense is alert. Every nerve is on fire. Cole left flank compromised. Enemy approaching from two vectors. Suppressing fire deployed. Move civilians first. Execute now, her voice commands, unnervingly calm despite the chaos. The team moves in a tight formation, weapons raised, scanning every shadow. Bullets ricochet from the walls, sparks flying as debris splinters around them. Cole drops to one knee, shielding a terrified child as Ramirez provides covering fire. Each step feels like a gamble. Each breath is measured against the heartbeat of danger. Then it happens. An enemy operative appears on a partially collapsed rooftop, aiming at the civilians. Cole freezes, calculating the angle, the risk. He knows any misstep could be fatal. Before he can act, a bright flash and sharp pop signal a drone strike. The operative collapses, incapacitated, leaving the civilians unharmed. Cole's chest tightens. She isn't just guiding, they are surviving because of her predictive precision. Minutes stretch like hours. Cole guides the civilians through the narrow alley, every turn an obstacle already anticipated by her unseen hand. Bullets crack dangerously close. Explosions tear through nearby buildings. Dust and smoke choke the air, but her instructions remain a lifeline, precise and unflinching. Suddenly, a hidden explosive detonates beneath the alley. Cole is thrown forward, crashing into a wall. Dust fills his lungs. He tastes blood and grit. He glances at the civilians, frozen with terror, and realizes the extraction point is still a distance away. His mind races. How do they survive this? How does he protect everyone under such relentless assault? Cole maintained formation. Alternate route highlighted, suppressing fire deployed. Civilians first. Move, her voice commands, calm, precise, unwavering. Cole drags the nearest child up, signaling his team to cover him. They push forward, bullets ripping through the walls around them. Sparks fly. Debris falls. Every instinct screams danger, but her instructions guide them through the inferno. Each move, each calculation is executed with robotic precision. They reach a collapsed building blocking the southwest passage. Cole freezes. There's no clear path. Civilians are panicked, weapons ready but limited. And then she speaks. Cole climbed debris left, team cover. Drones suppress enemy positions. Civilian guidance activated. Execute carefully. Cole's hands tremble as he signals the team to hoist the civilians over the rubble. Bullets ping against concrete, sparks flying, dust choking them all. He lifts a child over jagged debris, feeling the sharp edges scrape his gloves. Ramirez follows, hauling another. The civilians obey instinctively, guided by Cole's calm authority, but it is her unseen hand that keeps them alive. Then came the ultimate test. The high-priority operative emerges from the shadows of a partially destroyed building, flanked by two heavily armed combatants. Cole's heart races. This is it, the confrontation she had foreseen, the precise moment where skill, instinct, and guidance collide. His team takes positions around the civilians, suppressing fire while Cole calculates the best approach. Cole engaged simultaneously, drones active, civilian path secured. Follow my instructions exactly. Timing critical, she commands. Cole moves with precision. Ramirez and two other soldiers suppress enemy fire. He leads the civilians through a narrow passage as bullets ricochet dangerously close. Sparks fly. Debris collapses around them. The operative raises his rifle. Cole freezes, but the drone strikes just as she instructed, neutralizing the threat. Cole's chest tightens. She had orchestrated everything down to the millisecond. They sprint through the final stretch of the corridor, bullets tearing through walls and rubble. The extraction helicopter comes into view. Cole pushes the last civilians aboard. Ramirez follows, wounded but alive. Cole climbs last, glancing at Delta Seven's chaos below. Explosions continue. Fires rage. The enemy is relentless. And yet, against impossible odds, they have survived. Her voice comes one final time. Cole, Delta 7 remains unstable. Enemy regrouping. Civilian safety ensured for now. Mission is not complete. Trust your instincts. Follow the plan. Execute precisely. The final phase is imminent. Cole lowers his rifle, shaking slightly, his mind racing. He has witnessed the full scope of her power, predictive command, tactical genius, and unparalleled precision. She isn't just a special ops director, she is a master orchestrator of life and death. And yet, a nagging thought remains. If she can predict every move, what is she planning next? As the helicopter lifts away from Delta 7, Cole realizes the battlefield has already revealed a terrifying truth. Survival depends entirely on her unseen hand, and the next wave of danger will demand more than skill, courage, or instinct. It will demand absolute trust. Cole's jaw tightens. He has survived the storm, but the real battle, the one that will test his limits, his morality, and his understanding of command, has yet to begin. And when the next strike comes, he knows that even the best trained soldiers may falter without her guidance. He looks down at the city below, smoke rising like blackened fingers, civilians fleeing, enemy forces regrouping, and understands. She is not just controlling the battlefield, she is controlling outcomes in ways he cannot even comprehend. And for the first time, Major Cole wonders, what is she capable of if she ever steps onto the battlefield herself? Delta 7 stretched beneath the helicopter like a jagged wound on the earth. Smoke billowed from shattered buildings, twisted metal glimmered in the morning sun, and the distant roar of firefights echoed through the ruins. Major Cole gripped his rifle, eyes scanning the streets below, his team forming a tight protective perimeter around the civilians. Every muscle in his body was tense, every sense razor-sharp. They had survived ambushes, snipers, explosions, and relentless enemy reinforcements. But the Special Ops Director's voice crackling through the comm reminded him that the mission was far from over. "Cole," she said, her tone calm, authoritative, and eerily precise, "Delta 7's final phase is imminent. High-value targets have consolidated. Enemy reinforcements are advancing simultaneously from all quadrants. Your path is narrow. Timing is critical. Drones and Overwatch assets will cover your movements. Execute exactly as planned. Lives depend on it." Cole swallowed hard, feeling the weight of responsibility press against him. Every civilian, every soldier, every life in his hands depended on following her instructions flawlessly. He had trusted her through chaos before, but nothing had prepared him for what she was about to demand. The helicopter descended into the heart of the city, landing amidst rubble-strewn streets. Cole led the civilians forward, guiding them along a narrow corridor of destroyed buildings. Dust and debris choked the air. Sparks from stray gunfire lit up the smoke. The enemy had regrouped, anticipating their approach. And yet, her voice remained the thread of calm in the storm. "Cole, northwest corner, enemy sniper neutralized. Secondary entry secured. Civilians remain low. Move now." Cole signaled his team and they moved with synchronized precision, weapons ready, eyes scanning for threats. Bullets tore through the air around them. Debris shifted and cracked under their boots. Every instinct screamed danger, but every step was guided by her unseen hand. Suddenly, the final enemy operative, the high-value target she had warned about, emerged from the shadows, flanked by elite soldiers. Cole froze for an instant, calculating angles, threats, and risks. One wrong move could doom everyone. "Cole," her voice rang out steady and commanding, "engage on my signal. Civilians first. Team cover. Drones in position. Timing is everything. Execute perfectly." Cole's heart hammered in his chest. The operative raised a rifle. His team flanked left and right. The civilians crouched low, eyes wide with terror. Cole's finger tightened on the trigger, But before he could act, a series of coordinated drone strikes erupted above the enemy, disorienting them, neutralizing fire positions and creating a narrow path for escape. "Move," she commanded. Cole surged forward, guiding the civilians through the chaos. Sparks flew as bullets ricocheted off walls. Debris tumbled from partially collapsed structures. Ramirez fell briefly, hit by shrapnel, but Cole pulled him up, their team forming a protective wall around the terrified civilians. Every step was precise, every decision critical, and all the while her voice threaded through the chaos like a lifeline. They reached the last stretch, a narrow street leading directly to the extraction helicopter. Enemy forces converged, attempting to block the path. Cole's team opened suppressing fire, every soldier moving like a well-oiled machine. Bullets flew, dust swirled, and explosions rocked the street. Sparks ignited from the debris, showering them in firelight. Cole guided the last civilians forward, adrenaline and fear spiking with every second. Then she spoke again, her voice calm but carrying an edge of authority that made Cole's stomach twist. "Cole, execute final maneuver. I have calculated every enemy movement. Drones will neutralize remaining threats in 3, 2, 1, go." A series of precise, synchronized drone strikes erupted, taking out the enemy operatives with surgical accuracy. The street cleared instantly, leaving a narrow, safe path to the helicopter. Cole's chest tightened. He had never seen coordination like this. Every ambush, every threat, every potential disaster had been anticipated and neutralized. She had orchestrated survival on a scale that defied belief. Cole rushed the civilians toward the helicopter. One last bullet ricocheted dangerously close, but a countermeasure drone intercepted it midair. Sparks exploded harmlessly against the pavement. The civilians scrambled aboard, huddled and shaking but alive. Ramirez and the rest of the team followed. Cole climbed aboard last, scanning the city below. Delta 7 was a shattered landscape, filled with destruction, fire, and chaos. But miraculously, the civilians had survived. His mind raced, trying to comprehend the scale of what had just occurred. She had saved lives in a way that defied conventional understanding. The battlefield had been transformed into a precise, controlled environment despite impossible odds. "Cole," her voice came again, now with a hint of finality, "mission accomplished. Civilians safe. Delta 7 neutralized. Your leadership and team execution ensured success. Remember, the key to survival is trust in your instincts, in your team, and in calculated guidance." Cole exhaled sharply, the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. He had followed her every command, trusted her foresight, and survived what should have been impossible. Yet even as relief washed over him, he felt a tremor of awe and fear. She had orchestrated every moment of survival, every countermeasure, every life saved, and she had done it without ever setting foot in the battlefield physically. He looked out the window at the city, smoke curling into the sky, buildings reduced to rubble. The devastation was total, but thanks to her, lives had been spared. Children had survived. Families had survived. Soldiers had survived. Cole's chest tightened at the realization. Without her, Delta 7 would have been a massacre. For the first time, he allowed himself to think about her, not just as a commander, but as the unseen force behind every decision, every movement, every heartbeat on that battlefield. The Special Ops Director was no ordinary leader. She was a strategist, a guardian, a master of outcomes. She had rewritten the rules of warfare, orchestrating survival with a precision that left even the most experienced soldiers in awe. Cole's gaze hardened. He had survived the firestorm, but he knew the battlefield had revealed something profound. Her power was unparalleled. And for every life she had saved, every threat she had neutralized, there was a question that lingered in his mind. How far could she take it? How many lives could she control, orchestrate, and save without ever being there? The helicopter lifted off, the wind whipping through Cole's hair. Delta 7 receded below them, a scarred testament to both chaos and survival. He looked at the civilians, exhausted but alive, their eyes wide with gratitude and terror. and he realized that the story of Delta 7 wasn't just about survival, it was about the unseen hand that had guided them all. Cole, her voice finally spoke over the comm, soft, calm, and commanding. Remember this, leadership is more than orders. It is foresight, precision, and trust. You have witnessed the power of calculated guidance. Use it wisely. Cole's jaw tightened. He had followed her through death and fire, chaos and destruction. He had survived the impossible, and as the helicopter carried them toward safety, he understood the truth. The Special Ops Director had not just saved lives, she had redefined them. She was a force that existed beyond the battlefield, shaping outcomes, orchestrating survival, and leaving an indelible mark on every life she touched. As Delta 7 disappeared beneath the horizon, Cole allowed himself a brief, rare smile. They had survived. They were alive, and he would never forget the woman whose unseen hand had made it all possible. Even in the silence that followed, one question lingered. If she could control the chaos of Delta 7 with such precision, what could she accomplish next? And with that thought, Major Cole understood a truth that would stay with him forever. The battlefield would never be the same again.